So I'm Tom. I work for Chord Electronics. I handle the amplifier manufacturing process and also help John Franks with the designs of the power amplifiers. And the other half of my job is to look after the professional industry for Chord Electronics, dealing with our clients across the world, including here in America, which is truly wonderful. Each one of these little squares is one of those MOSFETs.
Oh, wow.
So it's a very unique technology. John originally designed the MOSFET as well. We now have another company manufacture them for us. This is the 4-inch wafer. We've now gone over to a 6-inch wafer, which is why the manufacturers have kindly donated this one to us. Yeah, it's a pretty cool little bit of tech.
How do the MOSFETs connect to this or relate to this?
So on this, so each one of those squares sits on the base plate of this. And then there's like we've actually got a picture of it at work, and there's like a little thin arm, which is then part of the MOSFET design. And then, yeah, so that's essentially where it is. And this is actually quite a large wafer, quite a large footprint, because they're very, very, very powerful MOSFETs. They can, yeah, I think they're something like 200 watts each or something silly like that, so they can handle, but it's just going to heat out.
And how many of those are in something like this?
So this specific, in fact, actually, going back to this very quickly, they've actually got two MOSFETs, sorry, they've got two of these in each one. So they're two little squares in each one of those metal cans. They're dual die MOSFETs is what they're called, which is why there needs a lot of sinkage for the heat to get out of there. So in this specific model, the Ultima Pro 500, per channel there's four of these ones and then 4 of the other ones. But because they're dual die, it's technically 8 MOSFETs per channel, 8 N channels and 8 P channels. So in total, it's actually 16 MOSFETs per channel. Which is very, very powerful. And that equates to 500 watts of power per channel into 4 ohms, one of these designs. So, I mean, going on to the power supplies, we use switch mode power supplies in all of our designs and in all of our models. So this particular one that we've got here is actually a 4 kilowatt design. They are very, very efficient for what they are, and toroidals generally tend to be classed as the better power supply in the industry, but if you know how to design a switch mode well, with enough filtering on the input and the output towards the DC side, it can be cleaner power than a linear power supply can generate. Also, linear power supplies are inherently affected by RF noise that's generated within the house. Because of the legalities behind switch mode power supplies and all the filtering that are required, we actually can reject that RF noise before it even hits the DC side of the actual design.
And what are we looking at over here?
So after the power comes out of the power supply, we're actually looking at the power goes in over here through these cables, goes into a bank of capacitors. Now, lots of people in the industry and lots of designers use large capacitors with extraordinarily high capacitance, but relatively they're quite slow to deliver their power. So with a bank of caps like that, we can offer a very, very, very fast charge and discharge rate. And because of that reason, and the combination of switch mode with lots of little capacitors, because they're not dependent upon that one cap to survive, electrolytics are prone to drying out. Because there's lots of them, they can all hold each other up. I have never seen one of these fail, and I've serviced all of the power amplifiers at Chord Electronics for the last 15 years. So it's very, very reliable.
And all of that's packed into...
Exactly that, yeah. So the actual Ultima technology itself, within these designs, is dual feed forward error correction. We're not the only manufacturer to utilize this design, but because of the way that John designed the original amplifiers, we've utilized that dual feed forward error correction, being able to then deliver an unbelievable amount of power extraordinarily cleanly, so for some of the fastest power amplifiers on the market. And it makes a real difference. One of the highest features of it, of a Chord Electronics power amplifier, is the way that it controls a speaker cone. So the damping factor is off the scale high. And then over on that side, just over here, we're actually launching this at NAMM, but it's a soft launch. So we're happy to talk about it, but it's not something that is currently available on the market. This is actually a G-class power amplifier, so standard AB sliding, but with an extra set of voltage rails as well. So from there, we can improve the efficiency and the sheer quantity of power that this thing can kick out. This particular model is 250 watts, and as you can see, it's 1U high and rack mountable. It's got 2 XLRs in and a pair of speakers, speaker terminals on the output. It does have fans on the inside towards the rear. They're tucked into the little metal boxes that are down the side. And the fans are controlled with an internal temperature monitoring and are very accurate, very quiet. So computer fans which are unbelievably quiet. So when you actually racked them up in a studio, for example, not a problem. You know, you won't be able to hear it at all.
So G-class here?
Yes.
And then what's the class?
So the class on this is the AB sliding bias. So all of our power amplifiers are AB sliding bias, including the alto.
Okay. Let's talk about the alto next.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm going to turn that on there.
So what are we looking at here?
So here we have alto. I'm just going to change that to headphone output. So alto is a sort of like a compact version of the Ultima technology with regards to power amplifiers. So we have, it's a headphone amplifier, it's a 50 watt into 4 ohm speaker amplifier as well, so perfect for small speakers, passive speakers like NS10s, your Auratones, and it's also got a set of XLRs on the output. So be it that you have 2 inputs, so an XLR input on the back and a single-ended input on the back, you can then use it as a sort of like a mini monitor controller within the studio, because it can do your near fields, it can do your main monitors if they're active with the volume control, and obviously it can do your headphones as well. The headphone power amplifier in it is unbelievably powerful, and one of the only ones that we've managed to actually blow up a lot of headphones on. So it's a good fun piece of kit. It's also got line level pass-through as well, so if you just wanted to loop it into your chain, you can, or you can then just leave it as an actual volume control. You've also got the speaker outputs and the XLR outputs at the same time, or the headphone outputs and the XLR outputs at the same time. Never the speaker and the headphone, because you're never really going to have your speakers activated at the same time as your headphones. But with the XLR pass-through, then it sort of eliminates its need for it being in the chain and can sort of disappear into the ether of your setup. So that's alto.
Just quickly, what's on top?
Sure. So Qtist, this particular model here is Qtist. All of our DACs are FPGA DACs. Most of the industry, or all of the industry really, outside of what we do, uses and buys standard small DAC chips. Now, the best way to improve, other manufacturers, the best way to improve that sound around those DAC chips is to change the electronics that surround it. And that's all you can really do. The fundamental conversion is still exactly the same. With us, we've changed the way that the DAC actually does the converting itself, with various different filter tap lengths across the board. So this particular model's got a 49,000 tap length filter. The higher generally does mean the better. In this instance, bigger numbers means better performance. So this is Qtist, a standalone DAC. It's got various different inputs on the back. It's just RCA on the output. But of course, we also have our smaller products over here. We've got Mojo 2. This is one of our most popular products we've ever made. It can drive pretty much any headphone. It's got EQ on it. It's got crossfeed on it. It's portable, so battery life, it'll probably last about 8 hours. And it's USB-C connection. It's also got 2 headphone outputs on the end there as well, so you can share it with a friend if you're on a flight or something like that. It's very, very convenient.
So that just goes right from your iPad, your Mac.
Yep, straight into your headphones if you wire it up. And so over here we've got the bigger brother, which is Hugo 2. In this instance, I think the battery might be flat on this. I don't think why that, or it might not be. Oh, there we go. So we've got the bigger brother over here, which is Hugo 2. Again, this is very similar technology. All of these DACs are FPGA DACs. However, it's just the difference performance. So this is our entry level used for slightly more mass market, whereas Hugo 2 is much more of a, shall I say, a refined piece. Lots more detail in the high end, lots more space available to it. It's got RCAs on the outputs, it's got 2 headphone outputs. Obviously, it can do pretty much anything and everything that the Mojo 2 can do.